right, we have our next speaker on hand here, and this is a real pleasure for me because I reference the fact that every year on these streets we have a March for Life. One of the people is instrumental in organizing that march every year, that, as I say, always gets underrated by the mainstream media, but those of us who have been here throughout the years know how many people come out for that March for Life. And it's Jack Fonseco, who is the president of the Campaign Life Coalition. He's done a hell of a job over the years on the pro-life file, and he's doing a heck of a job fighting against gender ideology. So it's a real pleasure because I've written over the years for Campaign Life's media outlet, and you can always say things for Campaign Life that other media organizations don't want to touch, because it's honest, it's frank, and it's completely objective. So Jack Fonseca is the Director of Political Operations at Campaign Life Coalition. He's been with Campaign Life Coalition since 2009 in a variety of positions, such as communications, marketing, media, and fundraising. And Jack is the media spokesperson for Campaign Life Coalition and has appeared on CTV, CBC, and numerous other TV, radio, and newspaper outlets. And Jack is married and is a father of two. So please give a hearty welcome to Jack right now.
All right, thank you very much, David. And, I'm honored to stand here with all you Canadian patriots. We are united under one flag, one nation under God. Black, white, brown, yellow, all different religions. We're united together in this common belief that our children belong to us, that we are the primary educators of our kids, and that it is incumbent on us and us alone to guide them in the morals and values and religious beliefs that they are to carry through their lives, hopefully. And we are here to demand that our schools cease and desist their LGBT indoctrination of children. We are parents and grandparents and concerned citizens. And we are united, as I said, in the belief that we're the primary educators and moral guides of our children. Not that sex activist teacher with purple hair, with no life experience, no children of her own, and no religion, but who hangs a gay pride rainbow on her door that substitutes for spirituality. She is not the parents, you are. Not the anti-family child sexualizing school trustees, superintendents, and directors of education who impose transgender ideology and homosexual propaganda on your kids. They're not co-parents of your child. You're the sole parents. Not the morally corrupt politicians and nameless, faceless, unelected bureaucrats working in the ministries of education. They have no right to indoctrinate your children with their personal crusade for sexual revolution. You, the mother and father, are the only ones who have a God-given right, predating the state, to form the moral and religious beliefs on human sexuality in your children. And likewise, the myriad of LGBTQ pressure groups whose coffers Justin Trudeau has been filling with hundreds of millions in taxpayer cash so they can develop countless programs to brainwash your children in school and out of school. They are not the co-parents of your kids, and they have no right to imprint their personal beliefs on them. How dare they interfere with our children and demand ever more control over what our children learn and believe. And I tell you, despite the talk of the left, we do not have a problem of white privilege and white supremacy in Canada. No, what we have is a problem of gay privilege and gay supremacy in Canada. This is where the LGBT lobby demands total control over the education of our children and control to exclude you, the parents. All of these people I've mentioned pretend to care about children, but rather they are gravely harming these kids. They are committing child abuse. The most obvious example lies in the teaching of gender identity theory in schools, producing this sexual confusion in the minds of thousands and thousands of kids across Canada. Now, how can I say with confidence that the teaching of gender identity theory in class, the belief that there are more than two sexes, and that biology does not determine whether one is male or female, how can I know that that causes harm to children? Well, we need only look at the fact that schools are now in the business of encouraging kids to explore and discover whether they might be transgender. And then once they've nudged the kids into thinking this way, to affirm their delusion of being the opposite sex and to facilitate social transitioning, followed by puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, which puts many of them on the path to sex change surgery in the future. How does this cause harm? Does it really cause harm? Well, let's analyze the side effects of stage 1 in transitioning, puberty blockers, which are typically given between 10 to 12 years old. In spite of what we're told by the so-called experts, puberty blockers are not reversible. Researchers in Glasgow and Oslo universities studying the effects of puberty blockers found that they produced lasting reduction in spatial memory and increased emotional instability. Researchers in New York studying the effects of puberty blockers in mice found that they produced depression, despair-like behavior in females, and hyperactivity in males. And this jives very well with research done on humans, because the drug used in puberty blockers has been used for many years, controversially actually, to treat conditions like endometriosis. And so we know that the research has long reported unwanted effects on cognition, emotions, and executive function. Now, executive function is a medical term, and it's a scientific term. And what does that mean? Should we be concerned if our child's executive function gets impaired? Well, executive function means your ability to think adaptively, to plan, to organize, to manage your time, amongst other things that the brain does. Dr. John Whitehall, a professor of pediatrics at Western Sydney University in Australia, has said that while on puberty blockers, quote, the volume of the brain decreases at a rate 10 times faster than aging, end quote. Now, isn't that astonishing? The volume of the brain on puberty, on these hormones, decreases at 10 times faster than the normal aging process. The healthcare and education system pushing affirmation and puberty blockers as the cure to gender confusion are literally causing their children's brain volumes to decrease. This is child abuse. There is research which suggests that puberty blockers cause irreversible infertility. Now think about that. Do 10-year-olds really understand what they're consenting to? Can they possibly appreciate what that means, being rendered infertile forever? Puberty blockers can also make bones brittle, meaning they break more easily. That's osteoporosis. They can stunt bone growth. Now, a blocked child will often end up shorter than his or her peers, which, if you think about it, can also very easily cause distress in children. Watching their peers grow and develop faster and taller than themselves. Stage 2 in transitioning is cross-sex hormones, which means giving high-dose testosterone to girls and high-dose estrogen to boys to produce and sustain the secondary characteristics of the opposite sex, such as facial hair on females and larger breasts in males. Children who do stage 1 puberty blockers almost always proceed to stage 2. But these extremely powerful hormones must be given for life and must be monitored for serious side effects, including cardiovascular disease, blood clots, and various cancers. Yes, hormone therapy is carcinogenic, and they're giving it to our kids. Studies have found that prolonged use of cross-sex hormones, which, as I said, must be given for life, are associated with increased risk for cancer, including cancers of the breast, prostate, ovaries, cervix, and vagina. Now this sounds like a wonderful, safe, and effective medical treatment, doesn't it? What loving parent wouldn't want to put their child on a treatment plan like this, which makes your bones brittle, stunts your growth, makes you permanently infertile, and increases the risk of heart disease, blood clots, and all sorts of cancers? Stage 3 of transitioning is surgery to amputate perfectly healthy body parts and then to construct simulations of opposite sex genitals. This is difficult, and complications are common. According to Dr. John Whitehall, quote, tissue grafts may die. Holes created to look like a vagina can fill in. Tubes can obstruct. Openings can appear. Lengths of bone that are sometimes placed in the shaft may protrude. Bowels may perforate and germs can invade, end quote. You can imagine this is not very pleasant. But this, my friends, is where all of our school boards, both public and Catholic throughout Canada and here in Ottawa, are trying to lead our precious children. Gone are the days when boards of education were concerned with developing the cerebral region in students by helping them excel in reading, writing, and arithmetic. School boards and so many educators now push sexual ideologies nonstop. No, instead of the cerebral region, they seem to be fixated only on the pubic region. And this is why I've taken to calling them pubic schools. These are pubic school systems, because that's all they seem to care about. And whether it's a pubic secular school or a pubic Catholic school system, their leaders are totally obsessed with sexual indoctrination of children. Here in Ontario, for example, standardized testing scores in math and science have been falling year after year for more than a decade. But sexual programming, including gender identity theory, eats up more and more of the school calendar every single year, and thus shunts more impressionable kids down that transgender corridor that I described, which is so dangerous and deadly. But we have to ask, is this unprecedented intrusion into the minds and bodies of children necessary? What will happen if parents do nothing but watch and wait while their child fantasizes about its gender? Can the child grow out of it? Is that possible? Well, scientific studies prove that the vast majority of children who identify as transgender will grow out of it through puberty if parents do little more than gently watch and wait. Unbelievably, this likelihood of growing out of it is admitted in no less than the official Diagnostic and Statistics Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, which is the Bible of psychiatry. In the current version, the DSM-5, it states that up to 98% of boys and up to 88% of girls have been reported to desist from their delusion of being the opposite sex or being trapped in the wrong body prior to the onset of puberty. That's 98% of boys and 88% of girls. And yet we're told that if we don't put them in puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and put them on the path towards mutilating sex change surgeries, there's going to be massive suicides among children. But if we leave them alone, these ideas will go away. That's what the stats show. They will desist. They will embrace their biological reality, their God-given bodies. They won't have a problem with it anymore. So now I'd like to address the suicide myth pushed by the establishment media, by our schools, by the medical community going along with this dangerous experiment, and by the politicians who support it or bow down to it. They all say that if we don't help children transition, if we don't immediately affirm their gender delusion, their sexual delusion that they're trapped in the wrong body, that they're going to commit suicide. So we've got to do this to save them from suicide, we are told. Well, that is complete rubbish. The most authoritative study in the world on the health effects of sex change surgery to post-operative transsexuals was a Swedish cohort study done by the very liberal, very pro-gay Swedish government. That study followed post-operative transsexuals over many years, and what they found is that those who underwent sex change surgeries had a 19.2 times higher rate of death by suicide 10 to 20 years later, post-surgery, compared to the general population. Now take that in. That's not a 19% higher rate of suicide. A 19-fold increase in suicide deaths means a 1,900% increase in suicide death associated with sex change surgeries. So by affirming a transgender identity in students, and thus encouraging puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, schools are necessarily putting many of these impressionable children, and some who are doing it as a fad, on the path to a sex change surgery later in life. We know this. Now what that means, given the statistic I mentioned from that authoritative Swedish cohort study, is that these schools will be responsible for putting children in body bags, for killing them. The schools, politicians, medical establishment that repeats this lie, this myth, will be complicit in the suicides of these children later in life, perhaps 10 to 20 years later, but nonetheless, suicide for many of them who follow the path of transgender identification, the logical conclusion of gender ideology, which is sex change surgery, when they regret the irreversible changes that they made to their body and regret them. But don't worry, Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party have a solution. If you become so depressed, so suicidal, and regretful of what you did to your body, how you mutilated it, how you castrated or got a double mastectomy or had your uterus removed, they have a solution. They've made it easy to kill yourself. They've legalized euthanasia, and just recently they've made very close efforts to expand it for reasons of mental health and depression. So if you're horribly depressed because you regret the mutilation of your body 15 years ago, or even recently, they can help kill you. Justin Trudeau can help kill you. He's made it legal. This figure alone on the suicides from the Swedish government cohort study should end the debate once and for all about whether encouraging children to transition should be banned or allowed in Canada. At least for those under 18, it should be banned. It should be illegal in every province and territory nationwide. It should be a crime, if not for everybody, including adults. So why is it happening? Why is Justin Trudeau, the leader of our country, pushing transgender ideology on kids, promoting it, encouraging teachers to indoctrinate kids with this ideology in schools, knowing, I'm sure that he knows some of these statistics on the negative health effects of gender ideology and sex change surgeries. So why is he doing it? Why is he encouraging these kids to, at some point in their lives, end up in a body bag, dead from suicide, mutilated, depressed? I think the man is a sociopath. I think Justin Trudeau is an absolute sociopath. He has murderous intent, and there's a common thread in what he's done. He's causing the deaths of these kids at some point in their life by getting them, encouraging them, and creating the conditions for them to mutilate themselves, to castrate themselves. He's encouraging the slaughter of unborn children in the womb through abortion. He's legalized euthanasia, the killing of our seniors, the elderly, the disabled, the depressed. He has murderous intent, I believe. And so, this is an anti-human agenda. I could be persuaded that Justin Trudeau is an empty shell inhabited by a demonic spirit. You could make that argument and convince me. So I want to encourage everyone here to keep marching, keep fighting. We are winning the battle here. Slowly, we are making progress from coast to coast. More and more Canadians are waking up to the realization that our schools are doing something awfully wrong, that something has gone wrong in our education system, that they are harming the children, they're sexually confusing the children, and producing lifelong medical, physical, psychological, and spiritual harm to them. And our movement's growing. There are protests happening in the Million Person March for Children in Victoria, Calgary, Moncton, Fredericton, Kitchener, Toronto, all over the place. And let's keep it up. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Chris.